want to say that on the website, I'm going to open up another page soon, that I would like to start a group that would like to be like a book club where we would read through the material and discuss it.
That'd be awesome.
Yes. And I would I'm also
that would be great.
I'm also making myself available very soon for intuitive readings. One thing that occurred after my mother passed was sort of a resurfacing of an ability that had been there throughout my life, for lack of a better word, psychic or so forth. And I've had many mediumship type experiences since she passed, and I have been doing readings of all kinds. A lot of it's just intuitive readings. It's really what I prefer to call it for people. And I decided to do them and donate the majority of the proceeds to an organization that works with girls who have been sexually trafficked in New York. A friend of mine is working with them, and my mother at one point. Yeah, my mother at one point was a counselor at a runaway shelter, and then she went on from there and opened up her home to sexually abused teenage girls. She was a shelter mother. She had a shelter home. She did this for a period of time in her life. She was a humanitarian. If you read the books that describes her life was just a gift to humanity from beginning to end. She was the most compassionate, loving, humanitarian, serving, humble person you'd ever meet. So I kind of grappled with whether I wanted to do anything public with these readings. But then after I spoke to my friend, and I thought, that's what I'll do with it. I will do the readings, and I'll help support this organization. So that will be up on the website too.
What is the name of the organization again?
You're going to ask me that?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to forget. I think it is... yes, it's Crossing Point. How about that? Crossing Point Arts. Crossing Point Arts, and they take it's in New York City, and they take all the arts. They bring volunteer teachers together who do all the arts with these girls, and they range from age 12 to 22. And she said they've been trafficked, some American girls, some from other countries, and they're being, helped, counseled, rehabilitated. Did you hear it? I heard it.
Yeah.
So that was just a cause very dear to her heart, and I'm real excited about it.
Beautiful. Welcome to September's Inner Sanctum with the beautiful and gorgeous and delicious Frances Rae Key. And then we have Gloria down the bottom, still waiting for a few people to join us. We've just been chatting online about the books and how they came through, and how Gloria Crystal Teddy Key, Frances's mother, was a big proponent of the church, and so a lot of the chapters in the books are very biblical. And what were you saying about that, Frances?
Well, her voice, when it first came through, would refer to Bible verses, Bible stories, and these stories and verses are all through the book. And a lot of times they're interpreted very differently from what people might be, typically used to. But for me, and for many people who read them and talk to me, they're a real bridge between some of the Christian teachings and the biblical references to a broader outlook to what those really mean. And you were saying that someone you interviewed, Howard Storm, uses the church vernacular, and but he does interpret it and experience it in a different way. Even though he's speaking in those very familiar words, his personal experience was different, and that's how it is in here for me.
Yeah,
I keep putting my hands on the books, but because the energy is something I always need to feel when I'm speaking.
You know what I'd like to ask you? There was a couple of things that Howard touched on, and also Garnet in his 4th book, which is about to come out. When I said to Howard in the interview, he said, you know, I got very vilified for speaking about some of the stuff that I knew, both by the university, by mainstream, and by the church. And I said, well, come on, Howard, here's a chance to tell us what you know. And he goes, well, he called it the heavenly choir. He said, oh, it was beautiful. He said that, you know, people think that God created, but God is a constant creation. And then we as souls are a part of that. And he called it a choir. He was talking about it, and this, you'd understand this too, being a singer, Frances. He was talking about the vibration of the music that is actually creating the whole entire cosmos and everything, all that is, like every
vibration,
everything. But it's like this choir of voices creating it together. And he was trying to explain the sort of bigness and the oneness of God. And in Garnett's last book, he calls it the dance of eternal rapture, where he sees souls kind of merging back with the Godhead and becoming one with all that is, like a drop returning to the ocean. You still maintain your individualism, but you actually become one with the all and the everything. And it just is that touched on in the books? Do you talk about that in the book, or does?
You know, book 4 is actually called Beyond the Team.
Okay.
And what it really refers to is the fact that we use this description of a team as a structure here on Earth that we know very well. There's certain principles and laws in place in this very obstructed kind of side of the universe. And then we have the unobstructed side of the universe, but it's all one universe. Yes, book 4, Beyond the Team, really emphasizes that it is good to work through these structures, but to understand that the teams merge with other teams, which become leagues, which become legions, and it's actually one unified, vast team or being. And to the degree we need to, we bring it down to the individual, we bring it down to the 4 of us group, then we bring it to a team, then we bring it as needed. But indeed, and it refers in book 1 to, my mother said, everywhere she went, everyone's singing. And she didn't mean literally singing, but she said that they because she was a beautiful singer, classically trained singer, that their voices, their essence was just emanating in sound. And it made the most glorious, harmonious, exquisite, extremely high level vibratory sound, ecstatic sound. And so in answer to your question, yes, because I think the vaster, if we go beyond the team, because the team does not want us to think, oh, I have this neat little package now, this is how it is. In book 4, it's like, take the lid off everything that we've already said to you. You don't throw it away, but you expand on it. Don't get too comfortable and tidy in this neat little formula, which people want to do. You know, I mean, I think all the time how it's like we're in a ceramics class and we have all these little shapes and molds that we want, and we take these principles, this clay, and we put them in the molds, you know, because we want to make them look like that. But really these principles are so vast that even bringing them into a book and even putting them into a language is just a shape. It's one shape of so that we've extracted. We have to remember that our ears on the earth, and I mean, this is proven, this isn't any kind of spiritual knowledge, this is a proven fact, that we only hear a certain little small segment of sound. And our eyes only see a little part of the spectrum of color and what's really there. We know that, but we're physically limited. We even know dogs can hear higher pitch than we can. So the truth is, here and now, right now, in our physical bodies even, the soul is not stuck in here, trapped in here in some way. soul is beyond, the body is inside the soul, and the soul is moving in and out of the body. And so we are emanating that same sound right now. We don't have to be on the other side to be emanating an ecstatic choir sound. We are doing it right now. We just can't hear it with our physical ears. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we transcend something, you know. But everything that we describe is happening, and I think it's real important. We talked about this earlier. Is that we think of as happening over there while we're over here. It's happening everywhere. It's all the same stuff. You don't have to die to know and feel and be and merge. You don't have to incarnate, you know, to do this and this and that and this. It's all one. Yeah. I mean, granted, each dimension offers certain opportunities that are unique for that time, but they're like extensions of the same principle. You know, it's all everything. It's all, we're told in the books, we do not tell you these things to make you want to be on the other side. We don't tell you these things to make you wish that you could leave the body and you could have a broader, higher experience. We tell you that you can do it. You are doing it. It's everywhere. And now I have to read something because I've marked this, how important this really is. Entering the earth is a privilege, a special opportunity, and there are many who are waiting for the right conditions to be arranged just for them as they were for you. You are an essential part of those arrangements. Completing your life well is how you help pave the way for those who follow you. Leaving the world a little better than you found it is essential, whether it's in your physical surroundings, the outcome of your personal relationships, your intellectual, practical, and artistic contributions, and your spiritual legacy. One is a manifestation of the other. This is why it's so very important to make wherever you are and whatever you're doing, an improvement of that time and place. Just as prospective college students review various universities with the help of those who are older and wiser than them, you received great guidance in choosing this dimension of study. There were meetings held, contracts drawn up. There were promises of support. There were discussions about to link you up with certain people, events and conditions that would supply you with stimulation at precise moments along the way. Great care was given to the timing of your entry, for certain individuals had to arrive there before you to prepare conditions that would be conducive to your growth, and they had to remain beside you for a certain length of time to see the plans through. In the same manner, you agreed to make certain achievements so those who are planning to come after you may build upon what you are leaving behind. You know, if we're a team, I mean, this is always so important and fantastic to me. You know, we don't just arrive willy-nilly. We arrive in a situation where there's certain things in place that if we so will and if we so choose, we may grasp them and go forward with them. And what we leave behind, I just love the idea that when I'm gone, that hopefully there's something I left that somebody can pick up and continue with.
Yes.
You know? And because I love my teammates, you know, we all love, perhaps you feel that same love, this love for these teammates. You know, there are best friends, there are family, there are truly beloved ones.
Yeah.
And just like if they're going to be a guest in my home, I want to have it clean. I want to have it ready. I want to have things in place, you know. So spiritually speaking, we're here for that.
Yeah.
And when I get discouraged or tired or think, oh, what does it matter? Or I'm a little speck in this enormous universe, and who cares? Any of those kind of things that we all humanly feel, I remind myself, that I'm leaving something behind.
Yeah.
For them to follow. And that somebody came ahead of me and did that. I'm just in awe of that. I truly am.
I think you're leaving a lot behind. I think these books, honestly, these books are just, I often think about that,
Yeah.
One of my favourite people left her body recently, Louise Hay. And look what she's left behind, right?
Yes. Well, I want to bring up here something else in relation to that, is the fact that I was mentioning that our body is inside our soul, and that our soul is vast, and it moves through the body and it animates the body, but only a portion of our soul is even connected to the body.
Yeah.
In the chapter called The Rest of You, I think it's in book 3, it's pointed out, it's like we are sitting on the edge of a lake, and we put our foot in the lake, and the rest of us is still sitting on the edge of the lake. And the foot is having a very different experience than the rest of the body.
Uh-huh.
And so we extend an aspect of our soul into the body, or through the body, around the body. But the rest of us is still sitting up there with the team, if you need an analogy like that, or going in other dimensions and doing other things and learning other things. And the part we extend here is the part that needs certain conditions and lessons and experiences here, but also brings a certain talent, or brings a certain something to the mix here that needs to get a certain part of the mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So just only an aspect of our being is ever here. So we're always connected to our team. We're always connected to the fullness of the universe.
Yeah.
Not only trapped in any way to this earth and to this body.
Yeah. Well, not only are we there, we're on other planets, we're in different dimensions. We could be here having a physical life experience and being a grumpy teenager. And we could be like an oversoul or a spirit guide as well. And we could be in the future having a galactic, life. And there are just infinite possibilities that our soul is up to. And that greater part of us that's in non-physical with our team has access to all those multi-dimensional, all those dimensional parts of us, and so much more. It's so much vaster than I think we can even hope to comprehend.
Yes.
Even hope to comprehend. I mean, I get a snippet of it. I get a whiff of the smell,
right.
But I don't really have the whole picture, and I don't think I ever will from this perspective. But what I need, what I need for now is what I'm getting. But I have to say, I have a very clear awareness of my personality versus my broader perspective, and that part of me that complains and bitches and fights and resists. And I see her like a personality, like a car.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
I see her like I'm
a little girl having a temper fit over there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I see these two, they feel like two aspects. And then there's the wise one, the sage that kind of sits back and allows her to have her hissy fit and kind of laughs at it.
Yeah.
And says, oh, calm down.
Uh-huh.
It's really interesting that I kind of, but I love that resistant, egoic part of myself. I don't fight it. I love it because I realize the benefit it has, because it's the part of me that creates desire and gives birth to, what next. And it's the part of me that says I'm hungry and like what would I like to eat next. And it's the part of me
keeps you alive.
Yeah, it's the
keeps your body going.
It's the human part of me. Yeah, completely.
Well, You know, it says in the books we have spiritual DNA, just like we have physical DNA, and that certain people, certain events occur along the way to activate our spiritual DNA.
Wow.
And that's what happened, because, you know, they say a little baby in the womb, or even when they're very young, certain switches are turned on in the DNA. That's how they, a 1-year-old does that. A 4-year-old does that. You know, typical progression of things. And of course, in the mother's womb, the DNA is activating these switches all along. Certain hormones are secreted at certain times that stimulate the baby's development in that way. And we have spiritual DNA. The same thing happens. Events, people. It's up to us to sort of grab the opportunity of that activation. And it comes sometimes in the strangest way and in the smallest little events. I'm so glad you told me.
I was. And that's when I heard that voice that said, you know, this is for you to grow. You know, if you didn't do these things, then we'd have nothing to teach you, you know.
Yeah.
You'd have no learning, you'd have no growing. You know, that's why these things happen. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to tell you a little story of I had this I've never owned a home, I've always rented, and I had this landlord who long story, but I befriended her before I moved into her place, and she ended up moving in underneath, and it all went very sour. She became very resentful and unhappy, and there was a moment there where she parked. She wouldn't let us out of the driveway. She wouldn't let my husband go to work, and she was standing with her car in front of her car like this, and just a barrage of abuse, and all I came out. Malcolm came into the house and said, "Camilla won't let me out of the house. He won't let me drive." And I came out and looked at her, and she's screaming and yelling and flapping her arms around and stuff. And all I could feel was compassion for the woman that was in so much pain, right? And I just went up to her and I said, "Camilla, you don't have to fight the world." I was just trying to speak to her with compassion.
Yeah.
She didn't hear it.
Yeah.
But all I could feel was love for this woman who was telling me, "I hate you. You are my enemy." It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
And of course, she's speaking to herself. We know that. We know that you're speaking to yourself.
But I had asked for that because I remember in a fit of anger thinking, I wish I read something about some monk or guru who had not accepted someone's anger and said, "You're trying to give me a gift, but I don't accept it." And I thought, if only I could be like that. I would love to be like that. Because when people get angry with me, I just get angry straight back at that time, right? And she gave me that gift. That woman just gave me that gift of being able to be that monk that I had wanted to be 15 years earlier. It took me a long time to get there, but she just.
But you remembered that monk. You remembered all these years later. You remembered that was planted in your mind as a seed to spiritually activate your spiritual DNA. Eventually, you see.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Well, I have something else marked here to read, and it just speaks to what we're talking about.
Cool.
So I'll read this, okay? It comes out of, actually it's a segment in book 4, but book 4 actually relates back to everything in the other books. It's like it takes something and just makes it a little bit more expanded. So, when you stand at the brink of great beauty and survey the strands of possibilities that might have been, remorse may tug at your sleeve. You read the words of great spiritual teachers and feel more defeated, unequal, unworthy to join them, too tainted from life's blows to even meet their eyes. But remember this, a master does not materialize out of nothing. She or he grows out of the soil of experience, just like you have had. Experiences of loss, grief, heartbreak, betrayal, anger, dishonesty, cruelty, rage, as well as experiences of joy, peace, tenderness, loyalty, and kindness. Yes, the master has done all these things and had all these things done unto her or him. Let this fact sink into your bones. Those whom you regard as loftier than you once participated in the shame and blame you have known. They rummaged around in emotions of defeat and thoughts of despair like anyone else. But then something happened within them. They decided not to stay there in that condition. Instead, they entered the portal of a turning point lifetime. And then it goes into a discussion of a turning point lifetime.
I love that. I'd love to discuss that more. A turning point lifetime.
It's a chapter in book 4, the turning point lifetime.
Because I think that's what we're all doing here, you know, all of it. Anyone that's looking at this, anyone that's, you know, looking at the recording back, even though you're not online, naughty people, but you are in a turning point lifetime. Yeah.
So we can either stay in that, you know, despair and remorse about, and not, of course, about a certain event or about our entire lives. I mean, I will tell you honestly, if I wrote the story of my life, you would feel you were reading a trashy novel at times.
Why?
I have not had a saintly life. I have had an unbelievable life. Before this experience, which is almost 7 years ago, I had major issues with anger, which instantly vanished and after this experience. And shame on me if it didn't, because look what occurred in my life. I mean, to receive these books and to have this communication with other beings, if that didn't transform somebody, nothing would, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to just confess everything right now, but I'm a very, very changed person. A very changed person. And if I sat and dwelled upon that, and from time to time I do, I go into a state of real grief, despair, and remorse and regret. And then I return to these writings. Because, you know, it says when you do your life review, that you see your lifetime as part of the entire saga of history. Not just you see your own history, but you see your history in relation to everyone that you've ever known, and then in relation to all lifetimes that have ever been. And so these behaviors in your life, in my life, that I am ashamed of, will take their place in the relative enormous span of time that you know, I or anyone else will be looking at. But the realization that all enlightened beings have stumbled through every single one of these emotions and behaviors through lifetimes here or in other dimensions, that they just weren't materialized out of nothing, as it says. But what they did that was different, and that's what I'm striving to do, was they decided, I'm going to make this the turning point lifetime. And I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to step into this higher aspect, a different aspect of myself, because I know that's what happened to me. I know that an aspect of me finished and left, and a different aspect has been manifesting through my body since that event. So, you know, take it and run with it.
You are blowing me away, lady.
Oh, I'm so glad it helped. And I love seeing your name when you speak. It comes up, Gloria, and I just feel, Gloria.
Wow.
Well, they blow me away. They blow me away. And the other big, big thing I have learned is when we are ashamed and down on ourselves, and when we're condemning and judging of ourselves, when we can't forgive ourselves, it's really a manifestation of pride, not humility. Because if we think, oh, well, I'm humble, I'm looking down on myself, I'm humble, you know, I'm not worthy. It's all pride, because we think that we're different from everyone else, and that everybody else can make those mistakes, and everybody else can do those kinds of behaviors and lose their temper in the parking lot, or cheat on their lover, or any of those things. Other people can do it, and I can forgive them, but not me. I'm too good for that.
Yes.
I'm too good to be that. And so it's a form of pride. I'm too good to be that, so I'm mad at myself. And it says the great leveler and the great realization is when you find out that we are like each other. We are like everybody else. And we simply choose to move on and rise above it. And that's true humility.
Yeah.
You know, that's true humility. When we stop judging ourselves, it's really more humble. It's much more prideful to think, oh, I'm too good. I should never have done that because I'm too good. You see, it's all turned around in our mind. We need to say to ourselves, I'm a human being. I am capable of such things. The emotional nature in me is capable of such things. And then you're one with everyone else. And then you have the compassion, and then you have the freedom from judgment for yourself and for other people, because you're not putting yourself up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
That's in the chapters called Transforming Remorse, and another chapter on Nothing to Forgive. We're also told that that a lot of times the teammates will come back and, in order to activate something in us, may come across as someone difficult in our lives.
Exactly.
I think it's in book 1, way before this election was going on that we had here. It says sometimes people will come back, for example, as opposing members of a political party, to give people the contrast to look at, extreme contrast to look at, to give them that experience. But they're really on the same team, same spiritual team.
There you are.
Interesting.
And that's something to keep in mind, you know.
Hillary and Trump. Or
on the other side are going,
Bernie
and Trump.
Best buds, spiritual brothers. I'll go down and be, and I don't know who you voted for, so let's just pretend. One will go down to be the difficult one, or the less popular one, and one will go down to be the more popular. There's.
But you're saying that came out in the book before the election, right? You wrote
Yes. The books were released before
the book a couple of years. Yeah.
Yes, I think book
How
1 or 2.
interesting is that?
Talks about that. But it wouldn't be just political people. It would be people of all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
There can even be, you know, in book 4, that's not quite out yet, it points out that if you decide, for example, to be an activist, and we're called to do different things. If perhaps you feel yours is to meditate and to send forth loving energy to try to sway certain things in society, and somebody else wants to go out and hold the placards and scream about their thoughts, which is a valid choice as well. But it says, just bear in mind, these books keep stressing non-judgment and humility. Bear in mind that when you are yelling at this opposing people on the street, you're calling out to your former self. You're saying, stop that, go, whatever chant you want to say, you're calling out not to the other, not to somebody outside of yourself, but to, you have evolved out of that frame of mind, perhaps something racist, and you go out and you oppose those who are racist and you're not. but you are calling out to another aspect. You're not an aspect. You're calling out to a former version of yourself, because anytime you evolve out of a narrow-minded way of seeing things, you've left behind residual energy that still is swirling around in these vibrational spheres that we talked about, and they are manifesting through other people, but you're speaking to yourself. So speak with that strength and that passion, but also with compassion. Not just passion, but compassion. I'm going to read a little bit out of book 1. I just read little parts. I don't want you to think I'm just going to read and bore anybody. But the books say things. I mean, when I'm talking about the books, I'm just a person talking about the books. You know, the books.
Can I just tell you? I think you're just magnificent today, Frances. I'm loving what the energy you're bringing and how it's beautiful to see.
Thank you.
I think that you're doing such a great job.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'm in my home, which used to be my mother's home. I'm in her favorite room.
Okay.
I'm in a few feet from where she passed away, and where I held her in my arms.
Oh.
I've spent the day reading the books, so I'm steeped in the energy here.
You are.
The last time I had to meet you at an office, and it was a very uncomfortable place for me to connect, but I feel very connected. To. Okay. Everything, this is called the hodgepodge that is the earth. Everything you're looking at in the physical world was, at some arrested point in time, someone's perception of consciousness, whether we are talking about a thimble or a grand architectural structure. Consider a sculpture that stands frozen in time in a museum. That sculpture is a symbol of a particular moment of awareness in someone's consciousness. In other words, whatever's created by a point of consciousness remains in either form or idea, a marker of that time, space, event. You have all around you amazing works of art, music, architecture, and then right around the corner you have war museums and streaks of hate graffiti. These contrasts are everywhere, each of them created by someone's thought at some point along the way. They are memories in tangible forms containing vibrations that have the power to spark the traveling of one's consciousness to that particular juxtaposition of time and space. And then it goes on to say, no matter how these symbols are created, they're always representative of where someone's thinking was at that time. And despite the fact that those who created them have progressed beyond them, they remain with us. And it goes on to say that the one who did the graffiti may now be the one who is creating this beautiful sculpture of peace. Mm. So we are surrounded by the physical symbols all over the earth of where we have thought and what we have done, in globally speaking as well as personally speaking. Mm. I mean, I can walk through my house and everything is, oh, I was 20 years old and doing so-and-so when I acquired that object, or somebody gave me that when I was 30 years old and this was happening. You know, I can feel the vibration or the energy of that life event. Yeah. So much more globally. And so we are literally talking to our former selves when we are involved in any kind of interaction with society. We simply are. And we also end up talking to our future selves. Because like Karen was saying, this Buddhist monk, was it, had planted something in her mind, which she carried with her, and 15 years later, it became a reality in her spiritual experience. So it helps to understand how everything's happening at once, you know, this concept of the eternal now. I mean, we see it all over the earth. Right now, it's night and day. It's my night, it's your day, morning. Everything is happening at the same time, even just right here on this planet. Somebody's dying. Somebody's being born. Somebody's in great pain. Somebody's in joy. Every imaginable thing is occurring at the same time. And so, if we're going to go forth in the world and do anything, let's do it with compassion and lack of judgment. Even if we're powerfully and passionately speaking about something that is a cause to us, the environment, animal rights, whatever calls to your heart, we do it. But remember, we contributed to the condition that we're trying to change.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely do.
So cause and effect, the cause is connected to the effect.
So
as
how
soon
does
as you
change your past?
Because it shoots out in all directions. This new enlightenment point about a certain event or topic. It doesn't have to be about that event. It can just be an awareness of perhaps humility in general, goes out and affects all the things that occurred that were of a different energy related to humility. And it can't stay there. It's a straight line. It's not going to be like that. It's going to rise up and meet the new realization, and it just dissolves. It just dissolves. It doesn't vanish or dissolve. It just transforms. It just raises. It just lifts. It just joins your new state of consciousness.
Imagine if we did this en masse. If the Jewish people could forgive the Nazis en masse and the Aboriginals could forgive their slaughter.
It would be done like that.
Wouldn't it?
But it's done in little it's done individually. This is so amazing because I was talking to somebody today. He was about how people individually evolve, and that's how collectively we evolve, because and some are evolving, and then some are evolving here, and then some are really evolved here and we're lopsided. I'm really evolved this way, but boy, I'm really unevolved in that side. And so yeah, if we could do it, and it's in book 4, it talks about the Native Americans.
Okay.
And how instantly everything could be transformed from that horror that occurred in this country. But it happens in bits and pieces with our individual raising of consciousness. And that is why the biggest gift you can give to the planet, to the universe, is this deep spiritual work and the raising of your own consciousness, because it becomes available to everyone. It becomes available to your team, but it radiates and affects everyone. It's the biggest gift that we can give. Yeah. It's the most important thing we can do. But I wanted to show everybody something before. I kind of wanted to end with something that I love to do, and it's in the books, and it might be meaningful to you. It's a very simple prayer kind of exercise, and it's simply upon waking or any time throughout the day, but I love to do it when I'm just lying in bed. I simply say, may the thoughts, and you touch your body in these places, may the thoughts of my mind and the perception of all my senses, the words of my mouth, the inclinations of my heart, the works of my hands, and the steps of my feet, I usually rub my feet together, be in accordance with the will of God and my spiritual team today and every day. Amen. There's something about touching those parts of the body that I find very powerful. And then at night, I scan the day, and I don't try to think too much about the events per se, but the energy and the feelings of the day, and understand it, bless it, and release it, because the books tell two very important things. That when we bless what we have, even if it was a painful experience, we're like Jesus, who blessed the 5 fish, or the few fish that were given to him, and he wanted to feed the 5,000. And the first thing he did was he blessed the fish. And then he was able to multiply them. He didn't say, oh, I only have 3 fish, this will never do, and complain about what he had. He just blessed this little tiny bit of fish and a little tiny bit of wine. And it was that was the first step. So in blessing our day, we open up to the next best thing that can come for us.
There she
And
is.
we're also told
There she is. It's Gloria.
It's Gloria.
It's Gloria Crystal laughing at us, saying, don't take it all too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. That's how it is. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
It's great.
See you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.